It is 1935 in the South London suburb of Norwood. A boy is born to Dorothy Grant, a secretary raising him on her own. His name is Peter. London is still scarred by war. Bomb sites and shortages leave their mark, but young Peter grows fast. At school, he is tall, strong, restless. By 13, he has had enough of classrooms. He leaves and finds himself in a sheet metal factory in Croydon. The work is dull, the pay is poor. He lasts only weeks before moving on. Soon, he's on Fleet Street, darting between buildings, delivering photographs for Reuters. The city is alive, noisy, bustling with the new age of media. Peter feels it pulling him towards something bigger. The theatre is his next stop. At the Croydon Empire, he works as a stagehand, hauling scenery, moving props, learning how shows really function. He is fascinated by the machinery of entertainment, the parts you don't see from the stalls. But in 1953, duty calls, National Service, the Royal Army Ordnance Corps. He serves 2 years, rises to corporal, learns the art of discipline and command. When the army is behind him, Peter returns to civilian life, but not to boredom. He takes a job as an entertainment manager in Jersey, then as a doorman at London's Two Eyes coffee bar. Here, Britain's rock and roll revolution is beginning. Teenagers in leather jackets queue down the street. Stars are born on this stage. Cliff Richard, Adam Faith, Tommy Steele. And standing at the door is Peter Grant, 6'2", broad-shouldered, already a figure nobody wants to argue with. Inside the smoky coffee bar, he begins to make connections. Singers, promoters, hustlers. One of them, professional wrestler Paul Lincoln, suggests Peter should step into the ring himself. Why not? With his sheer size, he can become a villain the crowd loves to hate. And so, under the names Count Massimo and Count Bruno Alassio of Milan, Peter dons tights, growls, and plays the part of the menacing European grappler. The ring is theatre, just like the stage. And Peter learns quickly, you can get what you want if you know how to use your presence. From the wrestling ring, Peter takes another step into show business. Television needs faces, extras, heavies, men who can fall downstairs or take a punch. And Peter fits the bill. He appears in A Night to Remember, clambering across the doomed Titanic. In The Guns of Navarone, he's a British commando, scaling cliffs with a rifle in hand. In Cleopatra, he stands as a palace guard, a towering figure beside Elizabeth Taylor. On TV, he pops up in The Saint, Crackerjack, Dixon of Dock Green, even The Benny Hill Show. Always in the background, but always working. Off-camera, he doubles for Robert Morley, mimicking his movements on set. The pay is decent, the hours unpredictable, but Peter learns the rhythm of the industry. Long waits, sudden action, and the constant scramble for the next job. Not content to rely on bit parts, he invests his earnings in something more solid, transport. His own entertainment trucking business, moving bands and equipment from show to show. Soon the shadows are riding in his vans to their concerts. Peter is no longer just a face in the crowd. He is a man people depend on. And here lies the shift. Acting, wrestling, bouncing, they all teach him presence. But moving bands from one stage to another teaches him logistics, how to keep the show on the road, how to solve problems before they explode. Bit by bit, Peter Grant is turning from performer into organiser. From a man hired to fill space into the man who makes things happen. By the early 60s, Peter Grant has moved from hauling equipment to moving whole tours. Promoter Don Arden takes him on, and Peter becomes the man who gets artists from town to town, stage to stage. It is rough work. Nights with Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Gene Vincent, The Animals. Endless miles of motorways, smoky clubs, promoters who promise money, then vanish when it's time to pay. Peter sees it all, and he never forgets. Soon he's managing acts of his own. The Nashville Teens, an all-girl group, She Trinity, the Jeff Beck Group, each one a lesson. He sets up office space with his old friend Mickey Most and begins to shape his style. Close, hands-on, no nonsense. In 1966, Simon Napier Bell asks him to take over the Yardbirds. The band is crumbling. Endless touring, no hit singles, money bleeding away. Peter steps in too late to save them, but just in time to learn something crucial. He watches the American market carefully. Not the top 40, not the mainstream, but the underground, college towns, venues like the Fillmore. Audiences hungry for longer songs, heavier sounds, music that doesn't fit the radio clock. Peter realizes this is the future. Forget chasing singles, build albums, build live shows, treat concerts as the true currency of rock and roll. The Yardbirds collapse in 1968. Members drift away, exhausted by the grind. Only guitarist Jimmy Page remains, left with contracts to honour and a vision in his head. He needs a new band, fast. Peter Grant is still there. He has seen how promoters take advantage, how money leaks away. He believes Page deserves better. So when Jimmy begins to rebuild, Peter is by his side, not as a hanger-on, but as the manager. The lineup comes together. Robert Plant on vocals, John Bonham on drums, John Paul Jones on bass. 4 musicians with power, chemistry and hunger. They play a short tour of Scandinavia as the new Yardbirds, fulfilling the last of the old obligations. Back in England, a new name is chosen. Led Zeppelin. Grant loves it. Strong, heavy, unmissable. From the start, Peter's role is absolute. He doesn't just negotiate. He shields. He fights. He controls every detail outside the music. The deal with Atlantic Records is massive. Unheard of money. Full artistic freedom. No singles. No compromises. Albums are the product. Concerts are the proving ground. It is a gamble, but Peter Grant is certain. This is not another pop group chasing charts. This is a force, and he will be the man who clears their path. The rules are different now. Peter writes them. A promoter leans back in his chair, smiling, the kind of smile that usually gets a discount. Peter doesn't smile back. He sits forward, elbows on the table, and lays it out. The band takes the lion's share of the gate, not the agent, not the promoter, the band. He is asking for a split nobody asks for. Then he isn't asking, he is telling. The room changes temperature. Contracts that used to bleed artists dry suddenly read differently. The percentage jumps, 90% of the door. Peter aims for it, and more often than not, he gets it. He understands leverage. Demand is on their side, and he never lets anyone forget it. No single on the radio? Fine. If you want to hear Led Zeppelin, you buy the album, or you buy a ticket. No mimed TV slots, no distractions. The show is the product. The band's sound is the ad. He keeps them scarce in the press, rare on television, huge on stage. Scarcity breeds value. Value breeds power. Cash matters. Peter insists on settlements in person, backstage, in counting rooms where the money is actually counted. He knows float from fiction, expenses from excuses. He checks the stubs, the manifests, the security. He is the last to leave the building, because the money leaves last. If a figure doesn't add up, the show doesn't end. It moves to his office, wherever he happens to be standing. He is 6'2" and over 300 pounds at his heaviest. But it's the silence that does the work. Long, flat, unblinking. Promoters fill the quiet with better numbers. Bootlegs are a personal war. In record shops he appears without warning and demands the illegal live tapes off the shelves. Right now. At gigs he scans the crowd for microphones and shoulder bags that look wrong. If he spots gear, he moves. At Bath, a bucket of water solves a problem. In Vancouver, he crushes what he thinks is recording equipment, only to learn it's the city's noise monitor. He apologises to no one for protecting his band. If the story grows in the telling, so be it. Fear has its uses. Merch sellers learn quickly. Unauthorised shirts, confiscated. Cameras where they shouldn't be? Removed. He is not a manager in the modern sense, he is a wall. Inside the wall are 4 musicians who only need to think about music. Outside, everything else belongs to Peter. He tells them, "You look after the music, I do everything else." And he does. When the industry forgets itself, he reminds it. A letter arrives from Midem addressed to Led Zeppelin and his backing group. Peter buys a full-page ad and reprints the letter under the headline, "Mr. Zeppelin regrets." The point lands like a hammer. Names matter. Respect matters. If you don't give it, he takes it. His loyalty is total. He runs a 5-way split, band plus Peter, because he believes skin in the game cuts out the rot. He refuses short-term money that compromises the long game. No carving up the catalogue for a quick chart hit in Britain. No endless promo when they should be writing. He keeps parasites away. Hangers-on, dodgy fixers. Anyone who wants a slice without lifting weight. If a venue's security can't keep fans safe, he hires his own. If a hotel can't protect privacy, they move. If the schedule breaks the band, he breaks the schedule. The intimidation is real, but it's not mindless. He rarely needs to use his size because his first weapon is logic delivered at volume 0. He knows the system better than the people who think they run it. He speaks their language, gross, net, per diems, back end. Then he flips the table and writes new terms. If someone pushes, he can push harder. If someone listens, he can outtalk anyone in the room. Know when to say no, he tells younger managers years later. He lives it every day. Behind the scenes, he builds structures that lock in power. Publishing set up early, so the songs pay the right people. Touring routed with military precision, so the band hits the right cities at the right moments. Ticket pricing, marketing, hall selection, everything engineered to make the live show king. He keeps the circle small. Fewer voices, faster decisions, stronger outcomes. The more noise outside, the quieter the inner room becomes. And inside that quiet, Peter's promise stands. The band first. Always. When decisions hurt feelings but help the music, he takes the heat. When a storm starts, he walks into it, so the others don't have to. He is the most feared man in the building, to everyone except the 4 people he serves. To them, he is a shield. On stage, the lights drop and the roar swells. Off stage, a manager leans against a cinder block wall, arms folded, eyes on the door to settlement. He has moved the money, moved the market, moved the power. He has turned a rock group into an institution. And tonight, like every night, he will make sure the institution gets paid, protected, and left alone to be loud. That is the iron fist. Not cruelty for its own sake, but a single, unwavering rule. The music comes first, and everything else either serves it or it doesn't happen. By the mid-1970s, Peter Grant has turned Led Zeppelin into the biggest band on the planet. The next step is empire building. In 1974, he sets up Swan Song Records, a label not only for Zeppelin's own releases, but a home for artists Grant admires. Bad Company, The Pretty Things, Maggie Bell. Offices open in New York, Hollywood, London. Lavish parties, grand logos, a sense of permanence. For a man who once hustled as a stunt double and bit part actor, this feels like his crowning achievement. But shadows creep in. The Oakland Coliseum incident of 1977, Grant's staff assaulting a promoter backstage, casts a dark stain. Though Grant himself didn't throw the punches, his name is bound to the violence. It becomes one of his greatest regrets. The loyalty that once looked noble now seems dangerous. Then tragedy. In September 1980, John Bonham dies after a day of heavy drinking. Without him, Zeppelin cannot continue. Grant agrees. The band must end. The decision is devastating. Swan Song collapses soon after. Its wings clipped. Grant withdraws to Horse Lunges Manor, his Sussex estate. Once it bustled with guests, musicians, business associates. Now it grows quiet. Drugs creep in, cocaine, downers. His once imposing frame bloats. Isolation becomes his daily rhythm. Friends see less and less of him. The iron fist, once clenched tight around Zeppelin's fortunes, now hangs heavy at his side. And yet he does not vanish forever. By the late 1980s, Grant re-emerges. Slimmer, healthier, clean. He makes guest appearances, attends rock conventions, gives talks. The legend of Zeppelin is secure, but now people want to hear from the man who held the reins. He speaks with candour, sometimes with regret, but always with pride. Above all, he makes clear one truth. His loyalty to the band never wavered. By the early 1990s, Peter Grant is once more a presence in public life. He is spotted at shows, chatting warmly with old friends. At a Frank Sinatra concert, he beams with the ease of a man who has stepped back from the front lines. At the Page and Plant reunion tour, he sits quietly in the audience, content to watch the men he once protected return to the stage on their own terms. On November 21st, 1995, while driving near his home in Sussex with his son, Grant suffers a fatal heart attack. He is just 60 years old. The news reverberates through the rock world. At his funeral, tributes pour in. From musicians, managers, journalists, some recall his terrifying temper, others his humour, but all agree, without Peter Grant, Led Zeppelin would never have been Led Zeppelin. Peter Grant remains one of the most colourful, feared and influential figures in rock history. His reputation is double-edged. The iron fist that intimidated promoters, but also the open hand that gave his band complete freedom. He changed the business forever, dragging power away from record labels and back to the artists. Where once musicians were pawns, under Grant they became kings. His legacy is felt not just in Led Zeppelin's empire, but in the entire industry's reshaping. Modern, artist-friendly deals, bigger touring revenues, merchandising, all trace back to his ruthless insistence that the band came first. In recognition of that impact, the Peter Grant Award was created by Music Managers Forum, an annual honour celebrating excellence in artist management. It cements him not just as a character of myth, but as a figure whose methods still ripple through the business today. Peter Grant was many things: loyal, intimidating, visionary, destructive, protective. Above all, he was proof that behind every great band there is someone willing to fight for them, tooth and nail.